Hi guys, this is the Casual Fan. The Imola Grand Prix was, well, a stern reminder to everyone that had doubts over Sebastian Vettel's ability to drive a Formula 1 car. And that was, in a way, the motivation behind this video because after watching Vettel's first two races of the season, as a fan of the sport and of Sebastian Vettel in particular, I feel Seb needs to hear this. Hello Sebastian, I have followed your career ever since you sneaked up on F1 fans in the US Grand Prix 2007. I have seen you being termed Baby Schumacher by everyone in the paddock when you won your first race in Monza. I have seen you being termed Crash Kid by Martin Whitmarsh in 2010. And then I have seen you not give up after so many heartbreaks and DNFs to ultimately become the youngest ever Formula 1 champion. I have seen you become the finger boy because of that irritating, wagging finger whenever you scored a pole position or a win. I have seen you dominate the entire field into submission in 2013 when you won 9 races in a row. I have seen you lose interest at Red Bull in 2014. I have seen you dance like a child who won just your second race in a Ferrari in 2015. I have seen you lose your temper against Lewis at Baku in 2017. I have seen you completely distraught at Ferrari in 2020, and sadly, I have even seen you realize that your dream to emulate your idol at Ferrari will never come true. And I have seen you being gracious, although a bit sad, through all of this. At Aston Martin in the last 2 years, I have seen you score 2 podiums for the team, and at Imola, drag the uncompetitive Aston Martin to points in conditions where driving ability can make a difference. After watching you through all of this, I only have one thing to say to you. Yes, you read it right. This weekend, like almost every other weekend, there were questions raised over your future within the sport. The answers you gave were not the one of a driver that is convinced or determined to stay in the sport beyond this season. The answers were of someone whose future was dependent on how much improvement Aston Martin can show this season. The answers were of someone who loved Formula 1, but at the same time was content with what he has achieved in the sport. Now I must say, 4 world championships and more than 50 wins in a Formula 1 career is not shabby at all. Even if you decide to call it off today, you will go down as a Formula 1 legend. The question though is not what you have already achieved. The question is whether there is more that you can still achieve in the sport. The question is whether you are still capable of driving a Formula 1 car fast and beyond the limit. And that's where I have to say yes, Sebastian Vettel as a Formula 1 driver is still capable of driving a car as fast as it could go. Now, can you qualify a car on pole? Well, you just dragged the 9th fastest car on the grid into Q3. You surely can qualify a capable car on pole position. Can you win a Formula 1 race again? You almost won a race last season in Hungary. Sure, you can do that. Now, the big one. Can you win the Formula 1 title again? Now, this is where I have to be as honest as I have been until now. For any driver to win an F1 championship, he needs a lot of things to go his way. He needs to be fast. He needs to have the right car under him. He needs to be mentally strong. He needs to be consistent. He needs to be lucky, of course. And most importantly, he needs to have the right team behind him. You have shown that you are fast. I can't question the mental strength of a driver who came from behind to win 2 titles against Fernando Alonso. And as a driver, you can only hope you have the right people behind you and the right car underneath you. However, why I stop of saying that you can win the title again is because I have not seen the kind of consistency that makes any F1 driver a top driver. You have a very high peak in terms of performance, maybe a peak that is as good as some of the best on the grid. But in the last 2 years at Aston Martin, you have not been consistent enough. Is it because of the car? Is it because of the consistent glitches one might face when driving a midfield car? Possible. That could be the case, but as the great Floyd Mayweather used to say, the proof is in the pudding. And unless I can see that consistency from you, I can't consider you a credible championship threat right now. Having said that, I think it's fair to say that we have established that it's certainly not the case that you have lost your ability to drive a Formula 1 car. Far from it. However, still, what was concerning for me was you hinging your future on Aston Martin's ability to produce a good car. A project that, if we are honest, does not appear to be turning into a success anytime soon. Lawrence Stroll has turned a team that would use minimal resources to produce impressive results into a team that has no shortage of resources but can't get its act together. However, this is where I would suggest that maybe you disassociate your future from the future of Aston Martin. Why? Because if you look carefully, there might be a possibility of a few precious seats opening up at some of the top teams at the end of the next season. If we talk about Red Bull, it's fair to say that the Verstappen-Perez combination might just be the pairing that the team is going to stick with for a while. At Ferrari as well, the combination of Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc is signed and sealed for some time now. So that's two top teams out of the way, but when we look beyond that, things do get interesting. Both McLaren and Mercedes will have a seat open at the end of the 2023 season. Lewis Hamilton's contract ends at the end of next year. So does the contract for Daniel Ricciardo. Will we see Lewis Hamilton race beyond 2023? Well, he will be close to 40 at that stage, and someone as multifaceted and successful as he is, he might want to explore life beyond the sport. Similarly for Ricciardo, someone who is no more the center of attention at McLaren, will he be looking to prolong his stay at the team or look for a different challenge? There is a possibility that at the end of the 2023 season, there might be 2 seats available at the top teams. And if you continue to perform at the level you did in Imola, then an experienced, fast, former world champion is not a bad option for either of the two teams. Now, if you're willing to wait another season, there could be a chance that you land another opportunity to challenge for wins and podiums. All you need to do is sign a 1-year extension with Aston Martin with possibly another year as an option. This will put you in a prime position to take advantage of any potential openings that might open next season. However, at the same time, there was one thing that I also felt when you gave your answers to the media. And the thing that I felt was contentment. Those were the statements of a man that was proud of what he had achieved in his career and was content if he did not get another chance to do it. Now, if that is the case, then that fire that drove you to become one of the most successful drivers in the history of the sport, that fire is not burning anymore. Is that the case? I don't think anyone other than you can answer that question. In the end, it's your choice. If you want to wait and have a shot at tasting that champagne again, I think there is a clear path where you can make that happen. However, if not, if the fire is not burning and you do not wish to continue, then at the end of this season, all I can do is thank you for being one of the best drivers of your generation, and more than that, one of the greatest ambassadors our sport can ever ask for. Thank you, Sebastian Vettel, for being one of the best drivers of this generation. So this was my open letter to Sebastian Vettel. I hope you guys liked the video. Please hit the like, share and subscribe button. Thank you for watching. See you next time.